Hey there, Duck fans! Welcome back for another episode where we take a look at all things Ducky and Disney. Today I've got another film to talk about, and this time Donald doesn't just make a cameo appearance, he's starring in this live-action animation merge, The Three Caballeros. What premiered on February 3rd in 1945 in the United States, The Three Caballeros is to date considered one of the most bizarre films Disney has ever produced. It isn't quite what most expect from a Disney film, and there may be good reason behind that. During the 1940s, a lot of animators, editors, and the like were drafted into World War II, which meant a good chunk of Disney's animation department was flown overseas. Because of this lack of staff and decrease in resources, the Disney company couldn't afford to make feature-length films, and instead produced pictures like The Three Caballeros and its predecessor, Saludos Amigos, which are comprised primarily of short animated sequences. There are 6 films Disney made during this period, from 1943 to 1950, starting with Saludos Amigos and ending with Ichabod and Mr. Toad, after which Disney returned to making feature-length films with Cinderella. So what makes The Three Caballeros so odd? It does feature a well-known Disney character in Donald Duck. There are bright, lively colors and plenty of musical sequences. So what's so different about this film compared to other Disney works? To start, there's little in the way of a cohesive plot. The film begins with Donald Duck's birthday, which falls on Friday the 13th, by the way, but ends with what has been considered by most to be a Disney drug trip, with dancing cacti and flying neon flowers. We begin with Donald excitedly rushing to a large box covered in stamps with a tag addressed to him in Spanish, which he easily translates for us into English. A note for those interested, the voice of Donald Duck, Clarence Ducky Nash, also voiced Donald's parts in the Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian versions of the film. Inside the box, he finds 3 presents for him. The first is a home movie projector, which shows us the first cartoon segment, a short story about a penguin named Pablo who dreams of greener pastures and sunshine rather than the frigid South Pole that is his home. The second gift is a book on Brazil, wherein one of Donald's good friends pops out of it to make an appearance. We've met Jose Carioca once before. The green parrot was also in Saludos Amigos. He uses a bit of black magic to take Donald on a colorful train ride through the pages of the book on Brazil, to what I assume is the city Bahia, which is now called Salvador. There we see the first live-action segment of the film, where Aurora Miranda, sister to the famous Carmen Miranda, the Brazilian bombshell, is catching the eye of every male in Bahia, including those of both Donald and Jose. After a lively musical number in Bahia, where Aurora Miranda has quite literally got the town dancing, Jose and Donald return from the book to the box for Donald to open his last present. The third and final gift is a piñata, as well as the introduction to the third and final caballero, Panchito Pistolares, the red rooster, who hails from Mexico. Panchito whistles for a magical flying serape which whisks the trio off to Mexico. There we see a few traditional dances, as well as the reason behind another big complaint about the movie, the blatant displays of lust by the 3 bird boys. We glimpsed a bit of it back in Bahia, with both Donald and Jose vying for Aurora Miranda's affections, but here in the Mexico scenes we're virtually smacked with it. Donald, Jose, and Panchito are shown to be a trio of lusty birds, and that doesn't sit well with a lot of Disney fans, some calling the exhibition unsettling and not very Disney at all. I could do a whole video on the history of sex appeal in older Disney cartoons, but for now, we'll just accept that those who complain about that must not have watched much Disney beyond a few feature films. It's in the latter end of the film where things do start to get a little weird, and we can see why there are people that call The Three Caballeros a Disney drug trip. I think it really starts with the musical number for You Belong to My Heart, sung by Dora Luz, whom we see first as a face in a star and then later in the center of a flower. Donald has left his friends behind as he prances through a night sky collecting cartoon stars and dangles from a crescent moon, as the head of Dora Luz sings to him. In the blink of an eye, Donald suddenly becomes a firecracker, and then a bumblebee flitting from one neon flower to the next. We are then quite abruptly reminded that Jose and Panchito are still a part of this movie as they bust in on Donald's flower flitting to change up the tempo. This musical number keeps switching between You Belong to My Heart and We Three Caballeros, and with all the flashing lights, bizarre imagery, and discordant chord changes, you can understand how some people feel this film must have been inspired by some animator's fever dream. The end of this film really does get a bit off the beaten path with a strange live-action dance sequence where Donald dances with a woman and some cacti, but in the finale we do get to see Donald, Jose, and Panchito finish us off with true-to-Disney form fireworks. The Three Caballeros is regarded as a propaganda film, though I'm not entirely sure if that's correct. It was a film made during wartime, but it isn't claiming one nation or another is better than any other, nor is it disregarding or disrespecting any political stances. There's no allusion to politics of any kind in the film anywhere, and to my knowledge, that's a key point in propaganda. Despite the tepid reception this film has received, I highly suggest all of you Duck fans out there to give this one a good look. Yes, it gets weird, but it remains charming to the firecracker finish. See you next time, Duck fans.